Hey everyone, welcome to Books with Brooks. I am Brooks. We have a very special episode for you today, which is a list of 12 Books with Brooks book club member book recommendations. I asked everyone to please tell me what is your favorite book of 2020 and why, and what's it about. And that's what this episode is. So I talked to 11 of our members, and they all made really amazing, thoughtful book recommendations, and they all looked over their Goodreads lists and they reflected on what they read this year. 2020, what a weird year. A lot of people read a lot. A lot of people didn't read very much because it was so hard to focus. I can really relate to both problems. I have had weeks where I can't put books down, and I've had weeks where I can't pick books up. And I think we've all been there. It's been such a weird year. So it was a really fun year to look back on everything you've read and all the adventures you've taken between the covers, and to try to identify which book spoke to you or stuck with you or really impacted you. I always ask, did you like the book? Yes or no, at the beginning of every book discussion. And it's sort of an unfair question because reading a book there's so much that goes into it. And I think everyone interprets that question a little bit differently. And I think everyone interpreted my please pick a favorite a little bit differently as well, which is totally fine and cool. And I love that. That's one of the fun things about reading, is that we all have really vastly different experiences, both with reading or with listening to books, and also with sort of how to categorize them. So, this list is full of books that our members couldn't put down. It's full of books that really taught them something. It's full of books that help you to escape your current reality, something I think a lot of us needed this year. It's full of books that are inspiring and will help you pick up another book once you finish that one. I've heard from a lot of people that being in the book club has helped them obviously read our book club books, but to read more than those as well, which is something that maybe they weren't doing before. And I do think, I've talked about this before, but reading is such a habit. And when you are careful to keep incorporating it, you'll keep doing it. And if you go a while without reading, then suddenly you'll realize it's been a couple of months and you haven't picked up a book. So I love that reading one book a month for book club might also mean that you read 2 or 3 because you're used to doing it, and it becomes a part of your routine, and it becomes just a part of your life in a really positive way. So since I made all of our book club members pick their favorite books this year, I am also forcing myself to do it, and it is really difficult. So I feel for everyone on this podcast who said, I read a lot of books this year and this was really hard. It is really, really hard. And it's probably an unfair question too, because I had a short list of 4 or 5 books that I absolutely loved that were all 5 stars for me. And it was really hard to pick one from that list because I think they're all really different and very worthy of being shared and very worthy of being favorited. But since I'm forcing everyone else to do it, I'm going to do it too. Drumroll, please. My top book, my very favorite book of 2020, is a book called Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. And again, I was really torn between a few books, and I ultimately went with this one because I think it's a book that I haven't seen a lot of places. It was just released in 2020, January 14th, 2020. And I think, unfortunately, the pandemic probably had negative impacts on this book because nobody was talking about anything else, Q1 2020. So I haven't seen this book a lot of places. I haven't seen it on a lot of lists, and I think it deserves attention. It deserves to be recommended because it was very, very moving, incredibly fantastic. Just a knockdown of a book, frankly. It's an emotional ride. It's a coming-of-age tale. It's also kind of a love story. It's incredible. So it's actually the story of a 12-year-old boy named Edward who flies with his family and their plane crashes, and he's the only survivor. And that's not a spoiler. That's what the book is about. So he survives this plane crash, and then it kind of follows the rest of his life. He becomes really famous because he's the only survivor. People become really obsessed with him, but he has to go like live with family and try to live a normal life. He like moves in with his aunt, and so it starts out, about this little boy getting over this massive loss, and then you get to watch him grow up and overcome this horrible tragedy in his past, and sort of reckon with it and reconcile with it. It is, man, it's a tearjerker. It's a book about humanity and love and grief and trauma. It is incredible, and it's a very modern day book. I really felt like it was super realistic. Like I felt like this is a story that really could happen, and like it just, oh man, it's a beautiful, gorgeous book. I highly recommend it. Dear Edward by Ann Napolitano. Pick it up if you can, because oh man, it is worth your time. It's so excellent. And now I give you the recommendations from our other fellow book club members. Enjoy. All right, next up to talk about their favorite book of 2020 is my friend Emily. Hi, Emily.
Hi.
Hi. All right, tell me what was your number one book of 2020?
Okay, so I've had a hard time choosing this, not because I had a lot to choose from, but I feel like I haven't read that many books this year that I really loved. And so I'm just actually finishing this book called The Vanishing Half. And so it's one of the books I really liked this year, that came out this year also. So that's kind of how I narrowed it down.
Yes, The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett, right?
Yes, exactly.
I read it too.
Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, it's about twin sisters who were kind of super close as children, and then at some point, their lives kind of took different paths, and one of them essentially continues to live black, and the other one kind of changes her life to live white. And that does not contain any spoilers. That's kind of what you know before you read the book. So that's my book for 2020.
That is a really good one. I also loved that book this year. I'm so glad you picked it. Tell me like why you loved it and why people should read it.
Yeah, so I try to kind of toggle between like a historical book or a nonfiction book and then a novel. I really, really like novels, but always try to kind of learn from nonfiction books or books that have to do with history or whatever it may be. So this was kind of like my novel that I read in the last month, and I really like how it did still have some components of things that I could learn from. So, they're like from a really small town in the South, and there's a lot of like race related information that I can kind of learn from it, and which is really kind of the way I love to read novels. And then the other reason I recommend it is because it's going to be an HBO series, and I tend
I
to
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh. Have they announced the cast?
They haven't yet, or not that I know of, at least. I read that a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
So, yeah, I
I will
love the
definitely
HBO
watch.
series. They just do such a good job. I don't love every book that turns into a movie, but Big Little Lies and the kind of whatever the people at HBO do, I just tend to really trust and rely on. And so I always try to read those books before those series come out. So that's kind of
Yes, I didn't know it was becoming a series, so you clued me in. That is a great, well, read it because it's amazing,
yes.
but also, yeah, read it because it's going to be probably a hit series as well, and then you'll be ready for that. So,
Yeah.
excellent recommendation, Emily. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you, Brooks.
And happy 2021. Hopefully, it's a better year for all of us.
Let us hope.
Hello, I'm here with my friend Maggie. Hey, Maggie.
Hey.
Hey. All right. I'm dying to know. Please tell me, what is your favorite book of 2020?
So I had to think a lot about this because I've read a lot of books this year.
Good for
so
you.
Thanks. I chose The Escape Room by Megan Golden. So
Ooh, I don't know of this one.
yeah, so it is about these people that work in a investment bank in New York, so very cutthroat. And they get stuck in an elevator together, and then it's kind of like what happens. So it's one of those books where every other chapter is like in the elevator, and then every other chapter is like backstory about all their personalities and how they got to be where they are.
Got it. Wait, and it's called The Escape Room?
Yep, the escape
Okay.
room.
The
Like
Escape Room. Ooh. Also, I love escape rooms.
yeah, I haven't. I mean, I don't know if it's a COVID friendly activity, but I haven't done any since
No, I
2019.
don't think it is,
For your birthday.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
but I do love them. That was actually one of the last things I did before lockdown. I did an escape room for my birthday. It was wizard themed. It was great.
Oh, nice. Love it.
Anyways, back to your book. Great plot synopsis. So why did you pick it? Why was it your favorite?
Yeah, so it reminded me of The Firm, which we read in book club, and I
Yes.
love.
John Grisham.
Um,
Classic.
so it was kind of like that in terms of like it was well, I mean, I guess that was a legal thriller, but this is like a more of an investment banking thriller. But it was about like kind of slimy people that have like done suspect things to get to the top. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then like one person ends up on top, and like I think it like in the end it ends very similarly to The Firm. So like very similar book, but I think I like that it was like more modern and a little bit faster paced than John Grisham. Although I
Yeah.
love The Firm, I read it very quickly.
Do you know when this one was published? Is it like
um
new?
yeah, new July 30th, 2019.
Oh, okay, yeah. Cool. Ooh, The
Yeah,
Escape Room. All right, well, it sounds great. It is definitely up my alley as a lover of escape rooms and John
I love a good
Grisham.
thriller too.
Yeah, a
Ones that
good
you can't
thriller.
put
I'm here for it. How long is it?
down. Does it say on good? Oh, 368 pages.
So, I don't know, is that long or short? I guess that's kind of long.
I mean, I feel like didn't we have this discussion in book club that it has to be like over 300 pages, otherwise it like isn't. I don't know. It
It
can
feels
be
too
a
short.
young adult book or something. So I feel like 300 is like the average, or I expect
Oh,
every book to be like at around 300 pages. But then once it
interesting.
cracks 400, I'm a little bit intimidated.
Yeah, then it looks too fat on the shelf.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. Well, Maggie, thank you so much. That book sounds excellent. I'm sure a lot of people are going to add it to their list because of you. Hey, this is Brooks with a very quick factual interjection. After this discussion, I did some Googling and I found out that books have actually gotten significantly longer in recent years. Apparently, a 2015 study showed that books' average length increased from 320 pages in 1999 to 400 pages in 2015. And they think this can be due in part to audiobook and ebook popularity, which it's like, it doesn't show the length / size in the same way that a printed book does. So it's not as daunting as it would be if you were just buying a book, I guess. So in conclusion, The Escape Room by Megan Golden is actually below average in terms of length. Wow. All right, up next we have the famous, the beautiful, my friend Rosie. Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Brooks. I'm doing jazz hands to all that introductory stuff, but you
Oh,
can't
I
see
knew
it
you
because it's all
would.
podcasty and stuff.
That's right. Rosie, the people are dying to know. What is your favorite book of 2020?
Well, I asked you off the record if you had read this book because here's the deal: is Book Talk, the book side of TikTok, went wild for this book, and I did one of those like
Ah,
Laysai, I suppose I will download it and just see what it's all about. But I am here to represent of your diverse group, the adult YA fan, because adulting's hard and sometimes you just want to like go into the fray with fantasy. So Book Talk told me to download A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and I have to say it is addicting. It's so good.
A Court of Thorns and Roses by
It's just
Sarah
a
Jane Moss.
say Sarah J, like a just an initial Moss,
Okay, Sarah
M-A-A-S.
J. Moss.
It's
Okay,
a lot of
thank you.
nouns. Uh-huh.
A bit of a mouthful, but I'm here for it. Also, freaking obsessed with Book Talk. I'm so glad you brought it up. It's the best place in the world.
What a wonderful place to find incredible resources. I'm now saving TikToks as like a to read list.
Oh, that's so smart. I love
Yeah.
that. Good idea. Well, tell us briefly without spoilers. Actually, sorry. First, I have one question. Is this a series or is it a standalone?
I'm so glad you asked, Miss Brooks May. It is a series, and I would specifically like to touch on that for a moment. It it gets wild with the nouns: a court of mist and fury, a court of wings and ruin, a court of frost and starlight, and then
Whoa.
there's a new one coming out, a court of silver flames. It's like she stopped doing the and. And that's going to come out in February of 2021. So huge fans of this series can stay tuned because there's something right around the corner. It
Whoa.
has ended for me. The story needs to sunset for me, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but basically I couldn't do anything else. I wasn't breathing, I wasn't eating, I wasn't changing clothes.
Whoa.
I didn't even
No
want to take
way.
bathroom breaks. It was that good. So,
Oh
yes,
my goodness.
so to get into it without any spoilers,
Yeah.
Feyre Archeron. Am I pronouncing that right? Who's to say? It's like when you read Hermione in Harry Potter
Yes. Yes.
without ever hearing it pronounced out loud.
Yep.
You just kind of make it up. But
Mhm.
basically, she has lost her mom, and she's a bit of a like, I'll do the work for the house. Like she will go hunting out in the woods. She's not afraid, that sort of thing. She's the middle
A
child
bit
of
of a Katniss Everdeen.
a bit of a Katniss Everdeen. Might
Love
there
that.
have been some influence? Who's to say? It was written in 2015, so I'm guessing there was.
Yeah.
But she is the middle child of two sisters. She's got a younger sister and an older sister. She doesn't get along with either one of them greatly, and she loves her father very much, but knows that he cannot do a whole lot to protect her. So it's kind of her story to protect her family and all the adventures and misadventures she gets into along the way.
Wow.
It
Truly a
doesn't
great
sound.
synopsis.
It's basically like introductory sentence number one, because anything else I'm going to say to you is going to be a spoiler. But I will say it is quote unquote high fantasy according to a Google search. Like there are otherworldly creatures involved, and
Okay.
she is introduced to them in pretty short order in the beginning of the book, so you don't have to wait very long for that. But this is not going to be like a believable sort of historical fiction or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, got it. Well, I'm very here for fantasy in 2020. And
Escapism.
Q1, maybe Q2 2021, so it's a great time to recommend a really good escape for our
Oh
listeners. Thank you so much, Rosie. Anything else?
yeah. Oh man, I didn't. I'll give it to you in 20 seconds or less. Here's the deal. Twilight level sexual tension ensues.
Whoa.
I mean, I can't even, like, as a disclaimer, I can't even tell you some of the dirty things that happen in this book, but you are going to be so intrigued on a romantic level.
Cool.
So a friend of mine said, it was somewhere in Twilight. She was like, if they don't get this over with soon, I'm gonna rip my hair out. That is the level that you will feel. And there is some like stretching and pulling as far as suitors are concerned, and you will absolutely love it. It will be so addicting that yes, you will forget to eat meals. And so I
Oh.
suggest it absolutely highly. Yeah, I
All
was like,
right. Well, top
my
of my
back
list.
was out of whack because I was trying to find new ways to get comfortable to read it on the couch. I was like basically laying off it at some point. That is why it should be on your list. You will love it, and you'll forget all about 2020.
Rosie, that was amazing. Are they paying you? Because you really
They
sold
should
it.
be. They should be. I need to be on the face of a court of silver flames, February
You
21.
do. You do. Amazing. Thanks, Rosie. Have a happy holiday and a happy new year.
Same to you, my friend. Lovely to speak to you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Using a narrative storytelling approach, the Hyman Podcast was created to start conversations that need to be human. Week by week, I'll break down walls and barriers and make people wildly uncomfortable, all the while giving a voice to the voiceless and the marginalized. Consider this your personal invitation to be part of that conversation.
Hey everyone, it's Cameron Justice, co-host of the Orange is Orange or Browns podcast. Make sure you check us out for everything Browns. We got you covered before the game, after the game. Here are our takes, here are our feedback, here are our criticisms, and our praises. If you like the Browns, you're going to love this podcast.
I am here for another favorite book of 2020 recommendation, and we've got my friend Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hi.
Hi. All right. I'm dying to know, what is your favorite book of 2020?
Yeah, so I wish I'd done more reading this year.
I've been hearing that
But
a lot.
I mostly spent my time doom scrolling social media.
Yep.
But
I can
my
relate.
favorite book of the year was The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin.
Okay.
Um,
What? Say it again. The City. What is it?
The City We Became.
The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I don't know of this book. What is it about?
Yeah, so it came out this year. N.K.
Oh,
Jemisin
good.
is a really fantastic fantasy writer.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first book in a new series, but it is about um, a group of people in New York who kind of inherit the soul of the city, I guess is the right way to put it.
Oh, I've heard of this book. Okay, I've heard of this book. I've heard of this book. Yes, yes, yes. Keep going, keep going.
Yeah, so five people kind of wake up one day and they are like the avatars of the five boroughs in New York.
Whoa. Whoa.
Um, and in the world of this book, like cities um, kind of become a person once they are large enough, and it has to do with like the history and the culture and just like the vibes. And it's really an interesting and cool way of like expressing character and like what different parts of like a city and a community can mean in terms of personality, but also just kind of how life is like expressed in different places. So it was really cool.
Wow. And so is it, or have they said, is it like the first in a series or is it a standalone?
Nothing else has been um announced yet,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
think it definitely leaves itself open for more books in the universe.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that there will be more.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds really good. And I have heard of that book. I think I forgot what it was called. Um, so what so why do you recommend that other people read it?
Um, for me, it was the kind of thing, it's all based around New York, but I really love living in a city and kind of what it can mean to live in a certain place and how that can define you and how you being there is an aspect that defines the city. So it gave me a lot to think about of like what would Chicago be like as a person
Yes.
or other cities.
That was my first thought. What would Chicago be like? So
Yeah,
Chicago is not a character in this book. It's only New York.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but yeah,
Fair, I
it's
guess.
fun in that way and like a decent bit of just escapist fantasy. She
Yeah.
writes such a good world that's always so like easy to get into story wise.
Yeah. Oh, is N.K. Jemisin is a woman?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's a fantastic black fantasy writer. She
Wow.
won
Love to hear
a
it.
bunch of Hugo Awards and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, her Broken Earth series, I also highly recommend. That
Okay.
one is more of a fantasy world where some people have kind of like earth seismic powers.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a really interesting trilogy. In her book, she does a lot of switching narrators.
Right.
So you
Mhm.
get different perspectives and learn things in different ways. So that's always kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Well, that I love that you recommended a fantasy book. I think this year really called for that. We all needed some escape, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we probably will into going into 2021 too. So fantastic recommendation, Charlie. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you like that book is great.
And here's to happy reading next year too. Okay, I'm on with Tucker, who is my brother, for those of you who forgot. Hi, Tucker.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hi, thanks for being on. It's the end of the year. We've all done a lot of reading this year, some of us more than usual because of the pandemic, some of us less than usual because of the pandemic. What was your favorite book of 2020? Tell me.
Well, the book I found most interesting in 2020 is what I'm going to go with here. Not sure if that exactly matches your prompt, but it's called
Sure, interpret it
Democracy.
as you will.
Yeah, thanks. It's called Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean. What?
Democracy in Chains by
That's
Nancy
right.
MacLean. It
That's
rhymes.
right. Yeah, it does. When you omit the subtitle, yeah, there's a long subtitle of the book too.
What is the
Then the
subtitle?
address. It's The Deep History of the Radical Right's Stealth Plan for America, which really,
Ooh.
yeah, really gives away the crux of this book I'm recommending. Um, this is a book that is made for anybody out there who, like me, has found themselves wondering how America has gotten exactly to where we are right now
Mhm.
um, as a political entity. If like me, you've wondered that repeatedly over the last 4 years, then this book is something that will offer you, if not comfort, then a good deal of understanding um, about what brought us to where we are.
Wow. Okay. And was it written, do you know, was it written this year or it was written recently?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was published in 2017. So it was
Okay.
published the year after Donald Trump's election. And
Got
it's
it.
not at all focused on Donald Trump or his now outgoing administration. It's focused on the story of how America got to where he is even possible at all. Um,
Okay.
so it takes us back to essentially the story that is told in this book takes us back to Brown v. Board of Education
Oh wow.
and how an economist in Virginia named James McGill Buchanan was prompted in large part by that Supreme Court ruling to found what became a national movement, a kind of economic viewpoint and social uh, political philosophy that ended up being
Got it.
adopted by the Koch brothers, who anyone who's paid attention to
Mm.
the advance of conservative, like extreme Republican politics over the last 2 decades has probably heard of the Koch brothers. This is the story of
Yeah.
where they kind of got their philosophical basis for their overall movement. Sheds a lot of light on a lot of the stuff that we see in America that sometimes can at least strike me as hard to explain.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's a lot of context. And I do feel like a lot of people are asking that question, how did we get here? So that is a really topical and great suggestion. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're our first nonfiction, so I'm happy to have that included in the list. Say the name of it one more time.
Well, thanks. It's called Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean. That's MacLean is her last name. And yeah, thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to check out the other recommendations on our list here.
Hey everyone, I'm here with a recommendation and a favorite book of 2020 with my friend Beth. Hi Beth.
Hi, Brooks. How are you?
I'm great. Tell me, what was your favorite book of the whole dang year?
Well, I had a lot of really favorite books, but honestly, the one that I would recommend to our listeners is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson.
The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. What's it about?
Yes. It is an incredible nonfiction account of the migration of African American people from the South to the North.
Oh, wow.
From, I want to say 1915 to like the early 70s. It's about 6 million people actually migrated from the South to the North.
Whoa.
After, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we're talking like from Jim Crow era all the way through, the 60s and 70s. It's an incredible book.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So
Mhm.
why are you recommending it this year?
So this year, obviously, we saw a lot of, social and political movements having to do with race. Our country finally faced a lot of issues that we've needed to talk about for a long time with race, with the George Floyd incident and several others, too many to count. And I read this book on the recommendation of some coworkers, and truly, I felt like this book, which is 622 pages, but don't let that scare you. This book honestly taught me more than I think my entire education growing up in the school system. And I went to a really nice school, high school, middle school. I did, and I appreciate all the learning I did at those institutions. But this book taught me so much, Brooks. I mean, so many things I didn't know. And I just felt after I read it that I was a better person.
Wow. Yeah. High
Yeah.
praise. It sounds amazing. 600 pages is daunting, but you've given us a lot of really good reasons to push through and pick it up. So thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right. Happy 2021. May it be a better year for all of us. All right, everyone, I'm here with my cousin this time. Not just my friend and my cousin, Mallory. Hi, Mal.
Hello, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening. Oh, I'm
Good.
great. I'm so excited to hear what is your favorite book of 2020. Do tell.
Thank you. I've been reading a lot of children's books this year because I have a little
Oh,
one,
that
and
makes
so
sense since you
my
have a
yeah,
child. Yeah.
it does. My favorite book of 2020 is The Pout Pout Fish by Deborah Deason.
The Pout Pout Fish?
Yes, The Pout Pout
Wow.
Fish.
I have not heard of this. What is it about?
So, deep in the water where the fish hang out, Mr. Fish's face is stuck in an ever-present pout. He swims about the ocean, spreading dreary wearies. Can his pals cheer him up? They each have their own theory. Mr. Fish believes his destiny is gloomy without end, but is there something he can learn from an unexpected friend?
Oh my goodness. It reminds me of Dr. Seuss.
It's very rhymey and cute.
That's so cute. And I assume is it beautifully illustrated alongside those clever rhymes?
It is. In fact, it was not initially, the hardcover was just released with new illustrations in 2013, which is the version we have, and it is beautifully illustrated.
And I assume your wee child is a fan as well?
He does. He likes the end. I can't tell you why because that would give it away, but the end is obviously his favorite part.
Yes, please. No spoilers. So would you say this is also his favorite book of 2020?
Yeah, I think so. I make it interactive when we read it, so I think he likes that. He anticipates the hand motions for the
Wow.
fish or sea creatures, I should say.
Oh, cute.
Yes.
That's amazing. So why do you recommend this book to other perhaps other parents or anyone?
So, okay, part of the reason I love this book is because I'm passionate about aquatic life. I love aquariums. You know this. When I lived in Chicago, I worked at the Shed.
Yes.
And one of my favorite things that I took away from that amazing opportunity was sea life high fives. It's hard. I'm going to try to describe it. So you high five, and then as
Okay.
you're pulling your hand away, it is a sea creature. So if you're gonna do a shark, you would high five and then put a fin on your head, right?
Oh,
If you're gonna starfish
cute.
high
Okay.
five, you high five and spread your fingers like a starfish. The pout pout fish has a
Okay.
jellyfish, so we get to high five and then do our gentle locomotion of our tentacles through the water as we read about Mr. Fish's
Oh.
suggestions for Mr. Fish's pout pout face. So it's a fun.
That's
It can be a
amazing.
fun, very fun interactive book. The rhyming and illustrations are beautiful. And I'll share. Okay, I'll share my favorite line. It's "Hey, Mr. Fish, you kaleidoscope of mope," which is said by the squid.
Kaleidoscope of mope. Wow. Also, a great word to teach a child. Kaleidoscope. That's a big word.
Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. There are some great choices for diction.
Thank you, Mal. I really appreciate you sharing that book. That's very special, and I hope to embarrass your child with it someday with this interview. Perhaps when he's
Oh,
off to
please do.
college.
Yes. Yes, we're saving all of the embarrassing moments for later on. Please do.
Perfect. Awesome. All
Mm.
right. Well, here's to a better year in 2021. Hey, Brooks here with another really quick interjection, which is that Mallory wrote the poem that you just heard her read. I didn't ask about it at the time because I just assumed it was part of the book and she was reading like the front or the back cover. But after I stopped recording, she told me that no, she actually wrote that poem because she wanted us to know what the book was about, but she wanted it to be in the style of the book. So what the heck? Mallory, Gold Star, A+, best podcast guest ever. Thank you so much. Excellent poem. Everyone, I am now joined by my friend JD. Hi, JD.
Hey, Brooks, how's it going?
It's great. I am super excited to hear about your favorite book of 2020. Will you tell me what it is?
Yes, I will. My favorite book of 2020 is called Backlash by Scott Harvath.
Backlash by Scott Harvath. And
Oh,
what is it?
no. I take that back.
Oh, you're
It
changing your
is
mind.
it is by Brad Thor. Scott Harvath is the main character in the book.
Ah, classic mistake. Wait, tell us what it is again and who it's by.
Okay, the book is called Backlash by Brad Thor.
You almost did it again.
I did.
Okay, Backlash by Brad Thor. What is it about? I am not familiar with this book.
Okay, so this is actually the 18th book in this series.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So the first book in the series, which is actually like my top 3 favorite books, is called The Lions of Lucerne, and it's about a president whose daughter is kidnapped, and Brad Thor is on the president's Secret Service detail, and his job is to get the first daughter back. And over the course of 18 books or
Whoa.
so, it
Wow.
just expands his entire career working in like intelligence and black ops. And this book, Backlash, again, it's 18 books in.
Wow.
It takes place right after the book before it, and Scott is kidnapped by some Russians.
Oh
And
boy, those Russians.
yeah, and he is trying to survive in the tundra. So in the course of his little kidnapping, the plane goes down, and
Oh boy.
he's trying to survive in like the Russian tundra before they like find him.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Can someone start with this book, or do they need to go back to number 1 and read 1 through 17?
They probably should read 17. I
Okay.
think 17 is is a standalone book.
Got it. So they can start there.
Yeah, they can. I mean, you could technically start in this book because you know how they do. They give you enough of a backstory on like all the characters that you can kind of pick up what's
Yeah.
going on.
Right. To remind you.
Yeah, but I think it's better if you are fully enveloped in the events of the previous book before
Okay.
you pick up this one. But
Okay.
you definitely don't need to start from number 1. So.
Okay. That is an extremely long series. I can't believe I am not familiar with it. I love that.
I found it on accident. Like
Okay.
I found it on accident, and it's one of those books that's really good on audio, and I love it. It's like I don't want it to end. I don't know what's going to happen. There's actually a new book out called Near Dark that just came out this year, but I haven't gotten to it yet because I've been working on my dissertation. I haven't had time to leisure read, but now I have all the time in the world.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Well, is the 18th one the last one, or are there more that you haven't read that are already out?
There's one out that I haven't read, the 19th one, and then there's
Okay.
another one coming out in 2021. So
Oh, there you go.
it just keeps going.
That's amazing. That sounds great. Wait, is he still, this might be a spoiler, so tell me to shut up if it is, but is he still trying to rescue the president's daughter, or is that done?
No. That is like first book, one and
Okay.
done.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, they really are drawing this out. Like, go get her.
Yeah, at this point, he doesn't work for the White House anymore.
Okay,
But
cool. Got it.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, JD, thank you so much for sharing. This is a book I did not know about, a whole series that I didn't know about. So I am very pleased to now have this information that I can take and add to my bookshelf. Yeah, and here's to having more time to read in 2021.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brooks.
All right, everyone, we have an exciting next guest. It's my mom. Her name's Susan. Hi, Mom.
Hi, honey. Hi,
How
everybody.
you doing?
Doing well.
Thanks for
looking
being here.
Forward to the holidays.
Yes. Well, I'm dying to know, and I know our listeners are too. Please tell me, what was your favorite book of 2020?
Well, it was hard. I read a lot of books in 2020, but decided on a book titled It All Comes Back to You by Beth Duke, who is a Southern writer. And I love books set in the South and written by Southern writers. I just think Southern writers are natural storytellers. So
Yeah.
that's my reason for picking this book.
I love that. I got called out this year actually by a book club member because I kept picking Southern books. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I do keep doing that. And I hadn't even realized it.
Oh, chip off the old block.
Wait, say the name of it one more time.
It All Comes Back to You.
It All Comes Back to You. And can you tell us what it's about?
Sure. It's about a young aspiring writer named Ronnie who is working as an LPN to make a living at
What is an LPN?
A licensed practical nurse at
an
assisted living facility. And she befriends Violet, who is a resident at the assisted living facility. And Violet is just your typical bigger than life, prim, proper, strong Southern woman. And Violet passes away and leaves a generous bequest to Ronnie with a caveat. Ronnie must write the book of Violet's life and write it within 1 year in order to claim her bequest.
Ooh, man, I wish someone would do that to me. That'd be so awesome.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But
give me a book to write and also some money. All right.
Well, yeah, and so that's part of it as their friendship grows and she learns about Ronnie as well as Ronnie learning about her. Part of this is I think she does this not only to have a book written about herself, but also to inspire Ronnie to write. And you gotta read it to find out whether it does that very thing. But it's a great blend of generations. And like so many books written today, which seems to be a trend, it's written with current. This chapter is current life, and this chapter is back in the 40s and 50s in Alabama. So in a good
Yeah, so we're jumping in time
Yeah.
back and forth.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
seems to be a trend in book writing today for some reason.
Yeah, I think so too. Another one of our favorite books from 2020 does that someone else recommended, and we've read several as well this year that do that. Yeah, I think it's a really good way to like keep the story active, you know, keep the reader engaged. Perhaps it has to do with our shorter TikTok length attention spans nowadays.
Perhaps.
Who knows?
But I like it.
So-
It usually works, you know, a good way to,
Yeah.
you know, almost keep two timelines going at once and gives you a little bit more to look forward to in that next
Yeah.
chapter.
Holds your attention.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, that book sounds excellent.
You would like it.
I would like it.
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to give it to me?
Yes, I am. I will bring it. I'll wrap it up
Okay,
for you
thank
for
you.
Christmas.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for having me on, Brooks.
Thanks, Mom. Appreciate your recommendation. A really good one. Can't wait to read it.
Okay, love you, babe.
Love you.
Bye.
Then let's get started. Everyone, next up we have Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm so eager to hear. I know you said earlier that you have read a lot of books in 2020 that are your favorite. That is great. And actually, the opposite of what I've been hearing from a lot of people. So good job.
Yeah, I read a lot of good books this year, so it's hard for me to pick just one, but I definitely have one that I think was my favorite.
Well, tell me what it is. I'm in suspense.
All right, drum roll. So my favorite book that I read in 2020 was actually one of our book club books, and it was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel.
I love that.
I really loved the book. And like I said, there were a couple books this year that were kind of vying for my number one spot. But in the end, I have to go with Station 11 because I could not put it down. I read it in maybe 2 or 3 days.
Oh, wow.
I absolutely just devoured it.
Yeah.
And this was our book club pick back in March or April,
Yeah.
I think. Maybe April.
I don't have it in front of me, but yes, it was in the spring.
Which was, yeah, it was right around the time of the pandemic, the time that the pandemic was starting. And I think that you had picked this book before COVID-19 hit.
Yes.
So it was just kind of coincidental.
Yes. I remember. Okay.
but-
It must have been April, I think, because we had a March meeting. Is that right? Or maybe it was March and we had a February meeting. So we kind of had like heard about COVID, but it was like sort of on the other side of the world still. And I was really on the fence about reading it. I was like, I don't know, this might be too much for everyone because I had actually read it before this year. So it was my second time through. But tell us, for those who haven't read it, Nick, what is it about?
So, just in a nutshell, it takes place in a future North America after there's been a widespread pandemic that has been devastating. And not that COVID-19 isn't devastating, but this pandemic in the book is one that has killed about, 99.9% of the population. And so there are very few survivors. And it follows a group of artists and musicians and actors that kind of tour the Great Lakes area and the cities that used to be around the Great Lakes to try to spread theater and music and culture to these places that have been decimated. And there's some flashbacks to when the pandemic was first starting, and it's really suspenseful. I loved the way that the author, who is Emily St. John Mandel, I loved the way that she built the characters. I really got invested in these characters and seeing their growth and development over the course of the novel. And she follows these people from, like I said, when the pandemic was starting, along the way, and into the future. And so I love the plot. I love the world that she built, and it's just really kind of a good book to read during the pandemic because I wouldn't say that it would scare anybody, but it's just kind of the moment, and it's something that I really enjoyed, and I think a lot of the members of our book club really liked it too.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's true. And it certainly is topical and a perfect book to recommend for 2020. Thank you so much, Nick.
You're welcome.
Here I am with my friend Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
We are ready. We are on the edge of our seats to hear what is your favorite book of 2020?
So my favorite book of 2020 was Orange is the New Black.
Whoa! I
Yeah.
see what you mean. Okay. Tell me more. Wait, people probably know, but tell us really quickly, what is it about?
So, okay, it's written by Piper Kerman, who is actually who the book is about. So it's technically a memoir that she wrote about one of her experiences. Roughly what it's about is her journey, I guess, through incarceration. I don't know if anyone has, this was really big on Netflix. And so when I saw the book, I was like, oh, well, they made a whole show about it. And I think the show was supposed to be really good. So the book must be pretty good for them to do a show of it. So,
wait, have you seen the show before you read the book or no?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I had not seen the show, and I have not, but I do plan to watch it because I'm curious how it compares to the book.
Yeah.
So basically, Piper Kerman is a young woman. She gets caught up with a couple of people in her life that aren't the best influences, and one thing leads to another, and she eventually finds herself convicted of a crime, and she ultimately needs to spend time in jail. And this is a true story. It's just really, really interesting because she speaks about her experiences from a viewpoint that is someone who never expected to be where she ends up. And it's interesting to hear her perspective because she's there for just a limited amount of time compared to, life or 20 years or something like that. So it was really eye-opening. It was really, really eye-opening. And a lot of the book is about, first off, just like, what is it like to, basically give up your freedom, and how does it feel, and how scary it is. And she meets a lot of women, within her, I guess you could call it, within her community in jail. She, moves around in different sections, but all of the characters in the book are really fascinating because they come from different backgrounds. They may or may not have told others, why they're in jail. So there's this fascination kind of surrounding, I don't know, for myself, I don't know anything about what it would be like to be in jail or convicted or anything like that. So that was one part of it. And then also hearing about all these different people and their experiences. And then she kind of does a good job also of giving her viewpoint on the justice system as a whole in the United States, especially. Sometimes she is like, oh, I made friends with this old lady and she's been in here for however many years and she did this. And, she gives a good, very logical viewpoint of the justice system, which is very much based on punishment instead of rehabilitation.
Yeah. Certainly.
And
there's almost no rehabilitation.
Yes, exactly. And it's kind of sad, but there's a lot of triumphs and a lot of happy memories that she creates, and she learns a lot about herself. But overall, the book was one where I read it pretty quickly. I couldn't put it down. It was interesting all the time because her experiences are probably different than any that a lot of our peers have experienced, unless you've gone through the justice system. So yeah, I would really recommend it just because it's well written, it's fast paced, and the subject matter is just really out there. I don't know any other book that talks much about this subject.
Yeah. I was struck, I read it as well years ago. And I was really struck by the idea of what do they call it? Remitting yourself to jail or whatever, or there's a word for it. It's where you turn yourself in, you just go to your time and you drive yourself there and you wear all your normal clothes and then you go inside and you aren't allowed to leave again. It's just such a weird idea. That like, because I feel like when you think about going to jail, you think of people like shackled going straight from the courtroom to jail. But I think most people, that's not how it works, actually. You're sentenced on bail and then you have to report to prison. It's so weird.
And so, yes, exactly. It's really weird because then, I always pictured like in the movies, like, you know, you're caught and then you go to trial and then you're like dragged away and that's that. But like, it sounds like people like they know it's coming. They
like prepare for it. Oh, it's so strange.
It's just so interesting because I'm like, gosh, what would that feel like? And she's, you know, got to put her job on hold, and she, you know, she obviously has a lot of personal relationships that she has to tell her family, and just like very realistic portrayal that she gives of like what this experience was like.
Yeah. Do you think you'll watch the Netflix show now, Carrie?
I think I will. Yes. I am setting myself up to be a little disappointed because I feel like every time I read a book and then watch the show or movie, I always am thinking about like, oh, they didn't include that, or that wasn't portrayed correctly.
Yeah, they never do it right.
I don't know.
If I remember correctly, the first season is pretty true to the book. I mean, it's all like way over dramatized for television.
Yeah.
But I do think that the first season pretty much follows the book.
Did you watch the show?
I watched it, yeah. Mm-hmm. Although I didn't watch I think I only watched the first 2 seasons, maybe 3. I don't know how many there are, but there are more than I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you recommend watching it?
Yeah, I would. At least the first season or 2. Yeah, it's good TV. It's extremely entertaining. And a lot of the actors have gone on to like get more famous and like star in their own shows and stuff, which is cool. So you'll probably recognize a lot of faces who are like, they were nobodies then, but now they are famous.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, it's good. You should watch it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your favorite book of 2020. That's a really fun one. Kind of a throwback. I'm into it. Yeah. Yep. So thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.
Books with Brooks is in the Press Play Podcast Network, and our theme music is by Jonathan Allen.